And welcome back to the show, everybody. My name is Brian Elam. I will be your host. This is another episode of the Be Successful series here on Get Your Entrepreneurship Together. And today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Beverly Walthour. She specializes in helping Christian women coaches take it to the next level. Like when I saw what this woman does for other people, I was truly impressed. It's one of those things you look at and like, really? Come on now. Really? Because we're talking going from 5-figure months to 5-figure weeks, and in some instances, days. And that is just something that we have to touch on. Not only how she does it, but the purpose, the reason behind it, and the passion for helping these women get out there and do this. So, Beverly, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the show today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm super excited about this conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely my pleasure. So I usually like to start at the beginning for people. You and I were engaging before we hit the record button. We were talking about your path as an educator and working with people, guiding people, obviously has that same kind of a energy as a coach. So what made you decide that you wanted to get into the education space and just really start helping and guiding people?
I have always wanted to be a teacher. Like it was always in me. I remember when I was little, my sister and I were 13 months apart. So I was one grade level ahead of her. And every day I would come home from school and tell her what I learned that day. So, I would tell her what I learned. I would quiz her. And so that passion never left. And so, throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, and the way that I figured out which subject I wanted to teach was in high school, I had the most amazing trigonometry and calculus teacher. And that was, what really made me decide that I wanted to teach math. Because up until that point, math actually was not my strongest area. Like it wasn't my strongest subject, but I loved it. And so because of her, that was what made me decide that I actually wanted to teach that particular subject. And so, but what I also knew was, which was very interesting, was that I knew I wasn't going to retire from the classroom. Like I knew I was going to teach. But I also knew I wasn't going to be like, 61, 62, 63, 4, 5. I don't even know what time the age is now, as a teacher. So that was also very interesting as well. Because like I said, teaching has always been a part of what I did. But once again, I knew it was going to be in different iterations, like it was going to look different.
Oh, so interesting. So you knew kind of on a core instinctual level, like when you got into this, you knew that it wasn't your permanent spot.
Correct.
That is so interesting that you were already in touch with that, even at the beginning.
Correct.
Is that
Correct.
something that you've always had in you, like that ability to almost, um, I don't know, see the future for the lack of a better word?
It was very interesting. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's always just a knowing. Like, I'll know when it's time to close a particular chapter, and I'll know, when it's time to say, okay, that's done. I'm like, okay, God, what's next? Like, that type of thing. So, like I said, I knew going into education, even when I was in college. And one of my professors was like, "Hey, you guys, set it as a goal that within 5 years, you're going to be teacher of the year." I said, "Okay, that's going to be one of my goals." Like, I was like, "Okay, I'm going to be teacher of the year." Now it took me 6 years to do it, but I did it. And then, like I said, I just knew that I wasn't going to retire from the classroom. And so when it was time to close that particular chapter, I knew whatever I did next, it was still going to take, teaching at some level. So the next stage to that was I did training and consulting for the state of Georgia. So and I was working with educators. So, I knew, it still took, that what I am at the core, which is a teacher. Like I know that I was called to teach. And so I just took it and it was just a different form of something that I knew that I was going to do.
Right, right. Now, when you made that transition from going to a teacher to working with the state,
Mhm.
was that um like what caused that shift? Was there a particular moment or tipping point that made you think, okay, this is the time to move away from
Right.
school and take the next iteration?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So um 7 years into my career as an educator, I had actually started my first business, and went into that business full time. Eventually went into that business full time, but fear got to me. Fear, I had a whole bunch of what if, what if you can't get any more clients? What if this? What if that? And so I ended up going back into the classroom for about 6 years. But then at about that 6 year point, God was like, okay, that's it. Like, this, you're done with this chapter. And so in education, you have a contract through the end of the year. So at the very beginning of that school year, I told the principal, I was like, hey, this is going to be my last year teaching. And so I told her at the very beginning of the school year, because, teaching math, I'm in a Title I school district. So, it could be a harder role to fill. And so, a position to fill. So I let them know at the very beginning of the year, hey, you guys are going to have to get someone else, to do this. And so, I just knew at the very beginning of the year, and I had peace about that decision. And so, when it was time, at the beginning of that year, January that year, I started looking for, other positions. Ended up, saying okay. So around March of that year, my administrator came to me. They're like, hey, we actually found someone, but we can't give them this position until you resign. I'm like, but I don't have to resign until May. So look, it's only March. But at that point, I knew. So God was literally like, turn in your resignation. And I'm looking like, but I don't have another job lined up, is what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't have another job lined up. Turn it in. So I typed it. Well, it was already typed it, but I'm not even gonna lie. It was already typed. I just had to update the date on that. I updated it, signed it, sent it. And within 2 days, a position that I had applied for, they called me for an interview. Did the interview, I had to do 2 interviews, got the position. At the end, I found out it was me and 2 other people that went for that particular position, and I got it. And so, went in. My last day working was like a Thursday or Friday, and on that Monday, I started my new position. So everything, just having that peace, and then everything just fell into place once I was, obedient with, hey, turn in your resignation. Your time here is up, and then everything just fell into place.
Yeah, that is amazing. That
Yes,
is truly amazing how God shows up like that
yes,
and just
yes.
shows you
Mhm.
that it's time.
Yes,
Like
yes.
2 months, 2 months before it was actually time. It was like,
Correct.
nope, nope, your
Mhm.
timeline is a little
Yes.
bit slow. We
Yes.
need to wrap this up.
Yes.
That is so beautiful. So when you were starting your first business,
Mhm.
you said it was back in 2007.
Yes.
Um, what was that? Was that getting into the coaching space or was that something else?
I actually had an in-home K through 12 tutoring company.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, a friend of mine was doing it back then. When I was doing it, it was under No Child Left Behind. So I'm telling my age, really. No Child Left Behind. So there was a lot of funding for states when it came to tutoring and things like that. So that was actually my first business. I did some of the tutoring. Mostly, I ran the company because I hired tutors as well. So, I did that. So that was my very first business that I ever had was back then doing K through 12 in-home tutoring.
Wow. And how did that go? Did you find some decent success with that? Is that company still
Yes.
around and you just
No,
kind of sold it
so
off or?
yeah, so I ended up closing that because my mindset was not there. Like I was driven by fear. Like I said, what if I don't get any clients? What if which I had clients because of me being an educator, I was able to network and, be able to sign clients and stuff like that. But I still, mindset wise, I was not prepared for that. I still operated with an employee mindset. And so 2 years, I ended up closing that business down and I went back to what I knew. Like I knew education, I knew I could teach, I knew all of that stuff there. So that's how come that business I ended up closing that one down due to fear. It was purely fear that closed that business down.
Yeah. It's so huge.
It,
Fear,
it
imposter syndrome, like
Yes,
all of it.
all of it. And back then, 2007, the internet wasn't the way it is now. And so I only knew one other person who was an entrepreneur, which was the person that introduced me to that. And so that was it. So I was very isolated as well. And so, yeah, I did not have the support in place to be successful with that particular business, but I learned a lot that I still use from that into what I do today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no such thing as failure if you learn the
Correct,
lesson.
correct, correct, correct.
Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing. And so when you started that business and decided, okay, I'm going to go back into educating, and then was it the next iteration that transitioned you into coaching?
No, and this is the thing. And this is what anyone listening to this, I need you to understand that entrepreneurship and being a business owner is not linear. Like it is. So that business was the first business I had, went back into the classroom and then transitioned into a new career. With that second career of, like I said, working for the state, doing training, and that position actually 6 months in, it shut down. They shut down the project we were working on. I'm like, wait a minute, guys. You did not have me leave a career of 14 years and 6 months later, I don't have a job. And so that was the point where I said, never again would I have just one source of income coming in. Because like I said, it was just the career. So I ended up, the day that I was laid off from that position, that was when I decided that I needed to have something else as well. And so, I remember this day clear as day. I'm on my way to driving to the unemployment office for the first time in my life, and I get a phone call. I had been applying for jobs. This is like within 2 weeks of being laid off. Going to the unemployment, on my way there, get a phone call. Hey, we saw your resume. Come on in for an interview. I'm like, okay. Once again, another position where I was training and working with educators. This time it was with a software company that allowed for teachers to create assessments online, and students took the assessments online. So once again, notice it was still I'm still working with educators, so I'm still training and teaching. But then as I had those positions, I did a couple of multi-level marketing businesses as well. And then once I did that, so the business number three, someone's like, Bill, how do you keep starting these businesses? And you're making money, but what are you doing? I thought everyone knew how to start a business. Like I thought everybody knew it. So when you have like the 15th person asking you the same question of how you're starting it, I'm like, okay, God, there must be something to this. So that's how I ended up getting into the business coaching side of it, was because people kept asking me, how was I starting these businesses? How did I know what to do? How was I signing clients? How did I know how to price the That's where that came from. And so I've been in the coaching and consulting realm for my own personal business for the past 7 years. So once again, that's what I mean. It's not linear. Like it was other iterations of other businesses and all of those other things that got me to this point here.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The
Yes,
entrepreneurship journey is not linear. It's a mess.
yes,
It
yes,
is, yeah, yeah. It's a ride, and you've got to
yes.
be in it for the long haul.
Correct, correct, correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And obviously, faith plays a big part because you've mentioned God multiple times in the amount of time we've been talking, which is
Mm-hmm,
wonderful. I think we
mm-hmm,
need more of that in our society right now.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, has has God and faith always been a big part of your life, or was that something that happened a little bit later and became stronger as you transitioned into this coach that you are now?
Yeah. So, I was raised in the church. Mama had us in the church, for when we were little. But one thing that she did do once we got to like high school, she let us decide whether or not we wanted to go. And so
Mm,
the church that we grew up in, it didn't have any other kids in there. So we were like, we're not going. So, I stopped going in high school, went off to college and, did college things. And but I would attend service, every once in a while in college. And then once I moved to the Atlanta area that I live in now, a friend of mine that actually I met the first when I interviewed for my position and got the position, they took me a tour around the school and I met this young lady and she invited me to her church. And so, so the foundation had been laid since I was younger. But it wasn't until later on in my 20s that I gave my life to Christ. Like I knew Christ for myself. And so so although the foundation was set for me when I was younger, I didn't come into my own personal relationship with him until I was in my late 20s. And so from that point forward, like I said, it was always there. I knew he was always there. But for me and having my own personal relationship, that was something that came a little bit later on in life for me.
okay. Yep, it sounds kind of similar to my journey as well. You
Mhm.
know, my mom had us in church all throughout our childhood, and exactly the same when high school came around, gave us the choice. I'm like, well, I know what I'm doing. I'm sleeping in. So yeah, but the
Mhm.
more we go through this life, the more
Right.
doors that are opened, the more people we meet. It's just so clear that he is there and he is working
Right.
for us. And yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
And
it's amazing.
I just think we're two examples of, the scripture traineth the child in the way that he will go, and when he's older, he will not depart. So, parents, that are struggling with their kids and, had, they were raised in the church and now they're kind of out there, just continue to pray and, they'll find their way back. We will, hey, we're two examples. We found our way back, like that type of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I appreciate you saying that.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when you're picking your niche, obviously you work with Christian women,
Hmm.
Christian coaches, and other entrepreneurs who are women. How did that come about? Was it the those were the people that were coming up and asking you all the time about how do you do this? Were they all women? Was that the sign, or was that something that was placed on your heart?
So once again, it was not linear. It was not clear cut. When I initially came into the online space, as far as the coaching and consulting, and then, if you scroll back 7 years, you'll see that my messaging was I supported women entrepreneurs. So whether or not you wanted a product based business or a service based business, because I had done both. And so that's where I started out. And then the more that I did it, that's when I started to niche down. But yeah, it was usually women, like 99% of the people that would approach me would be women. And so eventually, when I looked at, well, who was actually, the ones that were coming, and plus I was part of an anthology called Tying the Knot Between Ministry and the Marketplace. And so, it made me realize that most of the people who were coming to me were women. They were Christian women, and most of them were either coaches or service providers for coaches. And so it just made sense the more that I did. And plus, they were the ones that were getting the results the fastest. And so it just made sense for me to then eventually niche down to that particular group that I now support now. And so, but like I said, it was not something that I started. Even when it came to do that, I kicked and screamed. I'm like, God, I don't want to work with them. I said, you know how we are, especially dealing with women, in the sense of, especially Christian women, when it comes to talking about money. That was the part that I was like, God, I don't want to do that. I said, I don't want to do it. I'm like, I didn't go to school, I didn't go to seminary. I don't know the Bible inside and out like that. Like I had all these reasons, like my Moses moment of why I wasn't qualified,
Oh
to do
yeah.
this thing. But every time I came with a reason why I couldn't do it, just like he did Moses, he came up with a solution. He had a solution. We're going to do it this way. Hey, yeah, you're not going to be able to do it on your own without me, but you allow me out. You just be my mouthpiece, and I'm going to give you what to say and what to do. And I said, okay, guys. I had no
Mhm.
more fight left after that. I just said, okay. And so, that's been the niche that I have been, really targeting probably for the past 3 or 4 years.
And why? Why do you think that Christian women hold such a powerful place and a powerful purpose for what they're doing?
I truly believe, with that particular niche of women, especially the women that are drawn to me, they know that they've been called to have an impact. They know that. Like it's been something that's just so innate in them. Their thing is they don't know where to go, they don't know what to do. And one of my biggest things, and part of my tagline is, my clients come to me because I support them in creating more income and impact without compromising their Christian values, because I've been in this online space for the past 7 years, and I'm very transparent with my audience. So my audience knows all of this. And so when I initially came into the online space and, trying to build this business and trying to have a successful business, I got caught up in some things that were not of God, from God, nowhere near anything with him. And so, that's why I'm such a stickler about, you don't have to, I compromised when I initially came into this online space. You don't have to. And so I needed them to be able to see that, once again, you can have a God honoring business, regardless of whether or not the people you serve are Christian or not. That doesn't have anything to do with it. You don't have to serve Christians, but you can have and build your business on kingdom principles without compromising your values. And so that was always, and that's always been the biggest thing. And I just believe with that particular group, that's why he's called me there, because I had been there where I did compromise and then literally had to shut all of that down the way that I was doing it to build it the way that he's called for me to build it, for others to see that, like I said, you can have a financially successful business without compromising your values. And like I said, you can do it in a way that honors him. And so that's why I know that I've been called to that particular group of women for this season. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. You had to be the real world example and then the shining light to let them know that it's possible.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what kind of impact do you see these women having on the state of the world? I know that's a big question, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's I think it's where this conversation needs to go.
Yes. It's been it's such a ripple effect, and it's seeing the change in them and how they show up more bold and confident, and how it is that they've been called to serve. Their even their own relationship with God is so different now, because they get to realize once again that he sees and hears you, daughter, that I called you to the kingdom for such a time as this. And so there are people out there that you've been called to impact. And so it starts in there with themselves and their businesses first. Literally, marriages have been strengthened with, you're like, well, it's business coaching. How in the world did that impact their marriage, or, their relationship with their kids has been repaired? So it starts in the home, and then it goes out, to now they're showing up as coaches, consultants, service providers. So whether or not they're a relationship coach, and now they get to impact other people's relationships. So whether or not it's with their spouse, their kids, their coworkers, or however it is that they operate when it comes to relationship, or life coaches, so now they get to impact these people that they've been called to serve when it comes to so that's what that impact looks like. So each one of them, however they've been called, like life coach, business coach, purpose coach, sales coach, however it is that they've been called, now they get to go out and now have this impact, and it's a global type of thing. And I truly believe that we have been called to help break these chains and generational curses, and help to establish generational blessings across people's bloodlines. So I'm like, you are having a generational, do you understand the generational impact that you
You,
are having on the lives, the businesses, the relationships, the careers, the finances of these people that you have been called to serve?
you just gave me chills up and
Mm-hmm.
down my entire body with that, because that is something that I do as well in my business. I'm all about creating generational wealth for people. My tagline is good people deserve lots of money.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
that you're talking my language. You start talking generational. That is beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
And you mentioned mindset earlier and how important that is, whether you're a Christian entrepreneur or quote unquote regular entrepreneur. If you're out there doing business, trying to change the world, trying to do something big, mindset plays such a huge part. We talked about fear, we talked about imposter syndrome. Now I want to touch on money,
Mm-hmm.
because we just spoke about my business, creating
Mm-hmm.
generational wealth for people. Now let's talk about money and understanding and being able to receive the fact of what you're worth.
Yes.
How do you approach that conversation, and how do you start opening up that door to let your people know, hey, it's okay to charge what you're worth. You are meant to have these resources.
Yes. And so, for me, because of my niche, I take it straight to the word. I'm like, scripture says that God has given me the ability to get wealth. So for me, being able to show them clearly in scripture, where it comes from, because for a lot of them, once again, especially the women that are drawn to me, I'm like, if you've dealt with issues with money, in your personal life, it's going to carry over into your business. Sometimes scripture is misrepresented. When scripture says the love of money, I mean, money is the root of all evil. I said, that says the love of money. It's easier for, a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. And I'm like, so it's all of these things that we kind of have to dig up and dig out. And, I'm like, that's not what this is. So it's some mindset things in there that we have to deal with. But for a lot of them, the process that I walk my clients through, especially when it comes to either looking at their offer, because my clients are established, so they've already been making sales. And so we go through and we look at the offer that they have. And I have 7 questions that I ask once again when it comes to creating their offer. By the time we get to question number 3, they were like, I have been underpricing my services. And I'm like, we can't do anything about what happened up until this point. But from this point forward, what decisions are we going to make? And literally, I'll have clients that will come in and they'll double their prices. I've had people 5x their pricing. And then within 7 days, they're out there selling it at the new price point. Because once again, it's that mindset shift. And like I said, getting them to see the generational impact, because they're like, well, hey, it's only I'm only meeting with them once a week, and it's only this and it's all. I said, oh, no, 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 no. I said, you may have a 12-week program or a 12-month program or whatever it is. I said, but it's not like once they're done working with you, you snatch all the information out of their head. I said, they take the information with them. I said, so literally you're giving them tools and resources and being able to support them with things that they carry with them for a lifetime. I said, then they get to pass that down. And, those people that are connected to them and with them get to experience the impact of what you did. And so for them, once again, once I'm able to get them to shift and see the generational impact, it's so much easier for them to come in and raise their prices, but I tell people all the time, I said, it's not just about attaching a 0 onto the end of, your pricing. I said, once again, that mindset shift, the shift in your messaging, those types of things. So it's really a process in getting them to be able to see that. But like I said, a lot of that mindset shift for me and my clients, it starts with scripture. Because like I said, that's the commonality that we have. And then we start to look at their offer and their pricing and those things like that, and just peeling back the layers and dealing with some of the, because one of the phrases I don't ever say charge your worth, because scripture says, I'm worth more than ruby. So I'm like, I can't even charge my worth because y'all not gonna be able to afford it. Now I say, let's look at the value that you offer. We're gonna talk about, charging for that transformation that they experience, that type of thing. But when we're able to have that conversation and they're actually able to see it, like literally, they're the ones that are like, okay, I want to price it. I want to price it at this. And, they're the ones leaving. And like I said, within 7 days, they're selling it at the new price point. And like I said, the level of confidence that they have, all of those things, they're now in that space of where it makes sense for them
Yeah. And
now.
what kind of clarity is needed in order to have those kind of 5-figure results?
Mhm. So some of those things, like I said, is them understanding that I am worthy to receive money like that, money at that level. Like I am actually worthy of it. The clarity in the results that they support their clients in achieving, like them understanding that, hey, what comes so easily for you, that doesn't come so easily for everybody else. And so, when they understand that level of transformation and that it's not as common as what they may think that it is, and that people will actually invest to work with them, for the 12 weeks, 6 weeks, however long you're working with them, it being able to achieve, because those people, they've been dealing with that thing for the past 10 years, 20 years, they've been dealing with it forever. And now you have a solution that you can show them in as little as 12 months, 12 weeks, however long your program is, to support them in starting to see those results. So for a lot of them, when they understand that, like when they have the level of clarity of what it is when it comes to the transformation, that all of those other things fall into place for them.
Perfect. And you touched on exactly where I wanted to go next, that word transformation.
Yes.
I'm curious, obviously mindset is important. The amount of financial blessings that come into the people that you work with is important. But having to go up against that money mindset, I'm betting that's not why they're coming to you. So I'm curious, what kind of transformation are your clients seeking when they come to you?
So because they are established, that's the thing. Like I said, they've already been making sales, but it's not at the level that they desire. And so they're coming there, but the core, I want to make more money in my business, but I want, and it's always, I want to do it in a way that honors God. That's always what they're saying. They were like, I don't want to compromise. I went with this person. They said, well, hey, you can't offer that. You can't coach on that. You can't teach on that. People are not going to pay you for that. So they're coming because people are told them that they can't do a thing. Or like I said, because, they're like, hey, I'm pouring out everything I have in me. And when I look at my account, it's not matching up with the level that I'm. So that type of thing. So they're coming to me because, like I said, they know that they're good at what it is that they do. Their accounts are not matching up with that. And so, they're on this space of like, well, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe I'm supposed to be doing something else. They're pouring their heart and soul in it, blood, sweat, and tears in it, and it's just not in alignment with how it is that they saw themselves doing business. And so that's usually when they come to me. That's usually the reason why they come to me.
Yep, I've got it. I got it. They
Mm-hmm.
have that innate feeling like they're meant for something
For
more,
the
just like
more.
you did at the beginning of your
Correct.
journey. But they have that innate feeling, just don't know how to get to the other side, and
Correct.
you are the person that's lived it.
Correct. 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 Yes.
Yeah. So you don't spend any time trying to convince somebody to work with you, do you?
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. So I'm such a firm believer that, my content, you consume my content, that will let I have testimonials out of everywhere, testimonial galore, those types of things. So I don't have to convince people to work with me. Those people that come to me, they come to me ready, and whether or not they've been watching me for 2 years or whether or not they watched one live stream and they were like, this is what I've been looking for. She has been the one that I've been praying about because I'm such this thing, we were praying, praying, praying. You cried out on the floor, you laid out on the floor, you got snot coming out your nose, your eye, praying to God about this thing. And then when the solution comes, okay, well, let me pray some more. Let me do some more. I'm like, wait a minute, but you just prayed and he answered. Okay. But for me, no, it's not about, I don't believe in convincing anyone to do anything. It's all about that alignment. This is what you're believing him for. You see this as the solution. Now let's have a conversation about how I may be able to support
Mm. Yep. That's beautiful.
you.
That's beautiful. I love it. Yeah. You have to have that alignment. It's so
Correct.
true. It's
Correct.
so very true. And do you ever find that you have to kind of help someone with their own alignment, whether it be, looking at it from the goals of their where they want to be financially or like the impact in the society that they want to make? Is there ever any kind of disconnects you have to work your people through?
Usually the biggest disconnect has been when they've listened to someone else say the initial vision that they were given, and someone will say, you can't do that. Someone is not going to pay you for that. And so they'll end up changing what it was that they were called to do to try to fit what someone else said that they were supposed to be doing. And so, it's just having them, okay, is that what God called you to do? Because you're struggling, you're not in alignment. I remember one person, she was like, well, I know that I'm supposed to be supporting people when it comes to these life issues, but this coach said that I'm not going to make money as a life coach. So she told me I need to be a business coach and, and be able to help people, sign clients. I said, but you don't have any clients. You haven't had any. How are you gonna? So it's like disconnect like that. Usually it's because they've listened to someone else say that they can't. So that's usually the disconnect for a lot of them. And
Mm.
so being able to show them that no, if God gave you this vision, myself as the business strategist, either I'm able to support you in achieving, this vision that he's giving you. I'm a resource, or if I can't support you in that, then I'm going to refer you out because my thing is I don't ever want to be someone's stumbling block, of what it is that God has called them to do. So if I can't support you in carrying out the vision that he's giving you, I'm going to refer you. I'm never going to say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, don't do that thing over there that God told you to do because you're not going to be able to. No, no. So that's usually when they come if they're out of alignment, it's usually because of that.
That's so interesting.
Mhm.
For someone that has that level of faith already, being a Christian and a follower of God, it's so interesting that they would get that feedback. They would pray so hard for those results, those signs, and yet when they come, they still resist and fall back onto other humans that have said, you can't do that. Well,
And I've
why
actually
is that?
I had a coach do that with me. when I initially said that I wanted to support Christians, and I literally had it in my copy and everything. And when I went to work with that coach, they were like, no, I think you should take that out because, it's going to turn people off. And I did it. I went through all on my website and scrubbed all. But I knew I had been called to do it. But the person that said it to me, they were where I desired to be. And that
Mm.
for a lot of them is usually what it is. So when I say I have been there, done that, and had the t-shirt over some stuff that went on, that was me. And so that's why I'm so adamant about being able to support them in what it is that God has called for them to do. Now when I went back to the coach and was like, hey, I can't not do it, like I know this is what I'm, they were like, okay, yeah, they were fine with that. But it was just me. And like I said, but I really feel like I had to go through that process to let others know that once again, you can do it in alignment with what he's called and how he's called for you to do it. You just have to align yourself with someone that understands and gets it and that's able to support you in the process, that type of thing. So that's where I feel like I come in for a lot of these women and being able to support them in their businesses.
Yeah, it makes sense what you said earlier about not being a stumbling block.
Mm-hmm.
That particular coach,
Correct.
nothing derogatory about
Correct.
them, but they were a stumbling block for you. Even
Correct.
though, like you said, they were where you wanted to be,
Correct.
their
Correct.
path that got them there wasn't your path.
Correct.
And I
Correct.
think that's so important for people to understand when you step into this entrepreneurial journey. It's like you're going on a path that others have blazed before you, but it's a wide road, man. And that your section of that road, it might just be uniquely you. You've,
Correct.
you've got to
Correct.
honor that.
That is so true. And I think also too, what I talk to people about is, and I know with that person, they just didn't know what to do with it. So versus, they didn't know what to do with it. So it was like, okay, well, do it this way because I know how to do it this way. You see what I'm saying? And I don't know how to do it that way. I can't support you that way. But if you come up here and do it this way, and that's what it is for a lot of them, a lot of coaches and things like that, they have a certain way that they're used to, like a protocol or a certain way that they're used to doing things. And so when you don't fit into that, it's either they try to fit you in it. You see what I'm saying? So that then they're able to do what they need to do. And I'm not knocking anyone. It's just a matter of, in my mind, I'm like, if you can't support them in that way, just let them know, hey, I can't support you. Like, I don't know how to support you like that versus, just trying to fit them into what it is that you're used to. And that's what I tell people all the time. Like I said, my goal, my thing is to support you in how it is that he's called you to do it. And I know that goes to my background in education. It goes back to that because as an educator, I could not have all my students doing the same thing at the same time in the same way because they could not learn that way. And so I've been able to take my skill set as an educator plus my relationship with God, my spirit of discernment that I have. And, I'm able to clearly hear, and the downloads that I get. And so I'm like, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, hey, this is what I see, those types of things. And so for me, that's one of the things that I feel like makes me a little bit different is I don't try to fit them into a box that well, hey, I know how to know the Holy Spirit gives me strategies for these people and I'm like, hey, have you thought about this? So that's one of those unique things, and that spirit of discernment, having that and being able to support them in that journey, the way that God has called for them to be able to move and operate in their businesses.
Speechless. There you go, folks. If you were on the fence about working with Beverly, I think you've just been knocked to the other side. Like, and so it is now time for you, Beverly, to let people know where in the world can we get in touch with you, learn more about you, get on that first phone call to figure out if we're the right fit. If you are that Christian woman, that Christian entrepreneur, how do we do it? How do we start?
Awesome. Yes, yes, yes. So a couple of ways that you can find me. So my website is www.beverlywalthour.com. Keep it as consistent as possible. I really love playing over there on Facebook. So you'll find me most active on Facebook. I have a Facebook group that has over 2,000 Christian female coaches and service providers over there. So we play over there on Facebook. So that's usually those two places that you can find me. My website over there on Facebook. So if you want to know like what's currently going on with me and what I'm up to, check me out over there on Facebook. And then, like I said, I have a Facebook group over there where we have fun over there in the Facebook group. So those are two places. those people that are interested in hopping on a call to see if we are a good fit. Because, and I always tell people, if I'm not, I have, like I said, I have over 2,000, coaches and services. I can refer you to somebody else if it's not me. But you can go to www.callwithbeverly.com and we can set up a call there.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. And those links, folks, those are going to be in the show notes and the video description. So check those out. Follow Bev, check her out on the website, schedule that call if you think that you're the right fit for her and her services. And speaking about playing and having some things going on, you mentioned in your intake, you've got a couple things coming out that have launched recently. So tell us about that. I'm excited to hear.
Yes. So I did a course a few years back called Daily Revenue Generating Activities. It was a course that I did. And God gave me this idea for these profit planners about 2 years ago. And so I sat on the idea for 2 years. And then finally in June, I moved on it. And, it's two versions of it. It's the entrepreneur's profit planner, and then it's the coach's profit planner. So it's two versions of those. So those were launched. We did pre-sales. We had a goal of 50, for the pre-sales, we did 65. So, exceeding abundantly above anything you can ask or think, that type of thing. And so now they are available on my website. So certainly if you're interested, these profit planners, literally they're 90-day profit planners, everything to support you in planning out. We have a section there for your revenue goals, your business goals, 31 biblical decrees for you to speak over your business, as you're going throughout, mapping out your content, your weekly, your monthly, your daily, like everything you could think of when it comes to a planner. So if you are a planner person, then definitely check out the Coach's Profit Planner and the Entrepreneur's Profit Planners.
That's amazing. That is a lot of resources right there. And I love the 30 biblical verses that you can speak over your business.
Correct.
I think that's so huge. That's
Yes.
so huge. Giving yourself that positive feedback and momentum. Uh Beverly, you are a gift, dear. You really
Thank
are a
you.
gift.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure being here with you today. I can't believe it's been practically an hour already. Um, I wanted to give you the floor for this last minute or two. If you have anything that you'd like to say to us, any imparting thoughts that you want to leave the audience with.
Certainly. Once again, thank you so much for the invitation and the invite to come have this conversation. One thing that I do want to just leave you with, as entrepreneurs, this is definitely a journey. I strongly encourage you that on this journey, have that circle, the circle of people that you can lean on, because this journey is not designed for you to walk by yourself. So certainly have that support system, because that will make a huge difference. It will make an impact on you and your business. Mindset wise, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, once again, it is a different type of mindset. So you certainly want to invest in, your personal development, your professional development, and I believe in your spiritual development as well. Certainly having that time that you set aside, to cultivate that mindset, because once again, it is certainly a different mindset. But once again, it's also being an entrepreneur is one of the most difficult journeys, but it's also one of the most beautiful journeys as well, and being an entrepreneur and a business owner. So, if you feel like you've been called to this thing, definitely go for it. There are tons of resources out there that can support you in this journey, in this process. If you are in this journey and process, like I said, definitely being in that space of having that support, and I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing. So once again, Brian, I appreciate you so much for having me on to have this conversation.
Again, it's just been an absolute pleasure. And yes, if you need that support, if you're looking for that kind of community, Bev, like she said, she's got that huge Facebook group, which I'm sure is vibrant and fun, just like she is, because she attracts those kinds of people. So go check out, click that Facebook link, join our group, and just get out there and start because you're meant to do it. Bev, again, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real joy to be here with you, and I can't wait to see where you go and how far you shine because it's gonna be big.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. All right, folks. Links in the description. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Share it out with someone who needs to hear it. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.